Howdy folks, Brian Cusco here at Triple B. This week we've got Mr. Kenan Harkin from the channel Kamp Kenan for you. One thing that was cool is I got to hang out with Kenan for a few days on the road in Australia before I actually got to do this interview, which I don't always get to do that all my guests, so that was really cool to get to spend some time with him before we actually sat down for the interview. And he's a super cool guy, and if you guys watch his channel, you know he does a lot of good work over there, conservation stuff. I'm very jealous of the pond he's got in his front yard. Yeah, but without further ado, here's the interview. You're watching Triple B TV. So you grew up in New York City.
I grew up in Long Island.
Long Island?
Yeah.
And you, at a young age, became a professional BMX rider.
Yeah, it kind of went, it was kind of funny, you know, growing up in Long Island, it's an interesting place. It's about, where I grew up was about 70 miles east of New York City. So we have the New York accents, but I had ponies and chickens growing up. And basically the two main loves of my life have been reptiles and bicycles. And I started, like all of us, everyone who loves reptiles, you're flipping rocks, you're finding whatever animals are in your area. And you know, I was always, it just so happened that the majority of animals that were in my area are turtles. So they were my first kind of pet and the first herp that I kept. But then later on, garter snakes and skinks and all that good stuff. And then with the bike riding, they both kind of happened simultaneously. It's amazing. I've been very fortunate to have two things that really propelled me for a lifelong pursuit. You know, so once I learned how to ride bikes, I could go further and look for more animals. So I could go down to Kaler's Pond and East Moriches and really go turtle hunting, you know.
Yeah, young boy on a bike, yeah, that freedom really starts to come about.
That's what it is, yeah, it's the freedom. I love that aspect of bike riding, you know.
And then after riding, you got a career as announcing with...
Well, yeah. So just, it just so happened that as a teenager, you know, the bikes kind of really, the talent for riding the bikes kind of really came about, and I met some great older kids that brought me all over the Northeast, and we did local competitions. And then from there I met some bigger pros, and they invited me to come along on these tours. And it was kind of funny, this guy Matt Hoffman and Jay Muron came to my town, and they were like the baddest dudes ever in like the 90s, late 80s, 90s, and even in some parts of the early 2000s. And so in 1994, I'm 20 years old. I helped these guys out of a really bad situation where their little minivan that they were touring in broke down. It's similar to being a musician. Back then, BMX didn't have the financial support. So these guys, you know, they had a tractor trailer with a ramp on it, and they would drive the tractor trailer and then follow behind in this beat up minivan, and it broke down in Long Island. So the guys were stuck in Long Island. And what had happened was I had all these hookups because I worked at a nightclub. So the guys could get, you know, we went to the deli, they got hooked up with food. We go over to the nightclub, they could drink a few beers. So it was just kind of funny. And as payment for that, they brought me to Woodward Camp in Pennsylvania. And one day there was a demonstration and no one was announcing. So I jumped on the mic and just started yapping, much like I'm doing now. And those guys brought me all over the country to do some cool things, and then that led to ESPN, and then ESPN led to NBC, and then NBC led to 2 Olympic Games, and that's it. And then in 2010, I grew tired of it, and it was simultaneous. If you put it out in the universe, Brian, the universe will answer. And I was like, man, I'm tired of this, but I like the paycheck.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't want to talk about like 14-year-old skateboarders anymore. And then all of a sudden NBC got sold to Comcast, and they brought their people in, and I got fired. So ta-da. And then it was like, what do I do? You know, that paycheck stopped. And I had simultaneously always kept reptiles. And I thought, you know, man, I had met a really great guy, Tom, at the Olympics in 2010 in Vancouver. And Tom and I hit it off, and we started Kamp Kenan. We just started filming things.
So 2010, is that when you moved to Florida?
No, I moved to Florida in 2004.
Okay.
So 2004, I moved to Florida. So with the expressed purpose of keeping animals outdoors. Growing up in New York, I was like many people all over the country, you know, terrariums and lights and heat rocks, and it was tough. It's just tougher, especially if you like tortoises. They require space, and some of the big lizards I always loved. In fact, in '94, when I was about 20, I lived in a basement apartment of a home of a house my dad owned. He rented the top, and then I was going to just a school, like a little community school for college down there, and I turned one room into a reptile room. I had a mangrove monitor, I had a caiman, I had an Asian water monitor, and they all just lived in this basement room. Which, as you can imagine, it was very humid. The sheetrock would mold, and the true story, I had about 4-foot water monitor. It burrowed through the wall, went up to the second story of the house. I lost it, and true story, got a phone call from the woman who I used to work at a Record World. She was my manager at Record World. I got them all the place upstairs. And she is screaming on my answer machine, "Come in here, your lizard just fell out of the drop ceiling into my shower." She was naked showering.
Oh my
the
God.
lizard fell out. No, true story, honest to God. So my dad, man, he came over, and I had to get rid of everything, you know, because it was just too much drama. So I got rid of everything, and then that's when I did the BMX stuff and started traveling a lot.
Dang, man.
But yeah, so it was kind of crazy. Florida in 2004, and then I kept. I just started building what has become called Kamp Kenan.
Well, it's been cool to learn kind of in reverse how you came back, because I found your channel when I first moved back to the States. I've watched, it was the same time I found Barchek's channel and Dave's channel and Brian Gundy and a lot of the reptile YouTube channels that I found when I first moved back. You were one of them. So I always thought this guy has great, you know, that's why I kept watching, because you present well and you do well. It makes sense having that broadcasting background.
Oh,
you're
yeah.
able to communicate through the camera really well.
That's I like talking, I guess, man. I talk to everybody, and I can only do that when I love something. So I loved bikes, and I loved animals, and so I think, you know, it just comes across. And I love the way things are nowadays with YouTube, because there's no longer a gatekeeper at these networks that say, "Nah, you need to talk about this," or "You're not cool enough," or "You might have been going bald, and we don't want you on TV, and we don't like your hat." Basically, we allow people to decide what they want to watch.
Totally.
So YouTube kicks butt for that. And I will never go back ever to a tradition. I get approached by television production companies all the time, and it's just not worth the psychological, the psychic strain of dealing with that.
Sure.
Because they generally
you gotta
turn
play a game.
Yeah, they generally turn it into something it's not. And you know, I'm very happy with the simplicity of what I present. I love the animals. I do my thing. People want to watch it, they can watch it. I don't worry about making a viral hit or anything like that. I just do it, and I'm kind of like the tortoise, right? Slow and steady. Maybe I'll finish this race, and that'll be good.
Well, you're doing a lot of work with a lot of good people. Like you're going to Colombia soon.
Yeah,
and doing
yeah.
that work out there. And is it living in Florida around all these people that keep, or the YouTube? Is it a combination of both that led you down this path?
That's a cool question, man, because so many people, I get questions all the time from viewers, and it's like, how do we get to do what you do? I'm not classically trained with schooling. I didn't get a doctorate in herpetology. I don't have a biology degree. I absolutely love it, and I absorb it and read and read as much as I could. And one thing I always try to impress upon young people that watch this stuff is get the information first. You know, so many guys want to have a YouTube channel first and don't get the information. I think it's important to kind of have the base of the pyramid, and the base is knowledge. And so that when you get to your YouTube channel, you have so much to pull from. So to answer your question, what I did was, when I moved to Florida, I knew that I've always been the type of guy that found people smarter than me or better than me. And I was never afraid to be a student or to be a fish out of water, or never afraid to ask a question, never afraid to look like I don't know. I think that's a problem. So many people feel like, oh, I don't want to ask this question, I don't want to get made fun of. Whatever, man. You got to be brave if you want to attain the goals you set in front of yourself. So I went to Florida, and I started meeting, breeders, and then through them, you got to weed out people that, straight up, people that just aren't good people. Just because you're a reptile guy, don't mean you're a good person. It doesn't mean that you have the best interest for the animals. So you kind of have to be smart enough to figure out, all right, what kind of people are these? And then those people are linked up with other people. And then finally, I met some people that were involved with the Turtle Survival Alliance. And that organization was great because you had conservation biologists, you had zookeepers, and you had private keepers. And so we all worked together. And you find, I met some great zoo professionals there, and through them is how I made friends with the gentleman Brian Horn through my dealings with the TSA, this guy Brian works with the Wildlife Conservation Society. My friend Lonnie McCaskill went on to work for the Wildlife Conservation Society, and they invited me to be a part of this trip to Colombia. And to be honest, when I started this channel, that was my goal. It's like, how can I do something meaningful and fun and get out there in the field and really help out with these animals we all love.
That's something to aspire to, man. I've got similar aspirations, and putting the channel out to meet people was one of the reasons.
Well, you're doing it. I mean, we didn't even know each other before this trip, and sometimes because I've had dealings with reptile people, I'm a little wary. I'm a little like, I don't know. But these events, and coming out to this Reptile Expo and meeting you and seeing how you operate, and Dave Kaufman, it's really been good because, when you guys take road trips, they can either be really good or really bad. And I think we all bonded. I think we all are down-to-earth guys. Dave's a character.
Dave is a character.
Dave is a strange bird, and I love it. So I had a good time meeting him. And then you, and just feeling this cool energy from you. So, if I'm imparting any wisdom in my old age to you, young lad, which you're not, but we're doing it. I really hope you come visit me, and we could do some more collaborations, because I really do get a great vibe, man. It was so much fun hanging with you, learning
man.
from you as well.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, no worries. You got a lot to
much,
teach
dude.
as well.
It's been good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the future, man.
Awesome, man. Let's get together in Florida. We'll have you at Kamp Kenan, and maybe one of these days we'll get you out on a conservation exercise.
I would love
trip.
it, man. I would love that.
We'll make it happen.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right, man.
Killer, brother.
Killed it, dude. Thanks again, Kenan, for sitting down with me and doing that interview. It was great spending some time with you out there in Australia. It was a lot of fun. Good to get to know you. Good times. If you guys are missing that Australia trip, there's the vlog channel down below. You can click on the link and see kind of all the antics we got into while we were out there. And there's a link, of course, for Kenan's channel down there as well. Next week, we're going to be sitting down with Mr. Kevin McCurley. I know this is one that you guys have been like, when are you going to post that video? When are you going to post that video? Well, here it is, next week, coming up here on Triple B TV. And until then, you've been watching Triple B TV. Y'all take care.